Hi there, it's been a while since we last covered Wyckoff for SHIB, and if you're new to my sessions, here are the key takeaways you can expect. Let's dive into the weekly chart and see where SHIB is heading. So previously we talked about SHIB entering, the tip of the wedge, getting closer to it, and the breakout happened during end of September, and currently continuously heading towards the downside. So this did not happen, and it seems like it's going to take a longer while before we'll see that to come up. So what's happening right now, even after that spring low point, is that the price continues to seek a lower level. So after the key level, or the red key level of 113 over here, I'm skipping 4 zeros. Currently, after 3 weeks of stabilization period, this week we started off with quite a steep decline, but it hasn't been over yet because it's just this week just began. So if it reclimbs, this will turn into a cross for candlestick. That is not too bad of a sign, to be honest, because buying from this bottom over here, not saying that this is actually the bottom, okay? But people buying the dip here has continued for over 4 weeks after the week of October 10th. Alright? But don't get excited too early, let's put it this way. Because if we look to the left of the chart, even during 2024, we were at a lower level. Alright, it's compared to the current level, it was still 10% lower back then. Not to mention the October 23rd, like the lowest low at that point. That's somewhere 30% lower than where we are now. Okay, so those are the worst case scenario for SHIB. So what are the key price levels if we are getting the subsequent tests after the was supposed to be a spring? Okay, so I can basically swap these two. That was a deeper test, and we're actually seeing potentially the real spring before the next distribution cycle. Okay, so here, because we have used up the entire rainbow, so let's borrow these two at least to draw the lower key levels. Alright, so let's move this up. Just enlarge this, and we'll see at around here. I'm trying to figure out the tips of those, or the head or tails of those candlesticks. So this should be one where that we have a key level. I have shared before, I usually look at least 4 reference points, and there are plenty at this level. And that's where, yes, like last week and the beginning of this week started. Last week ended somewhere around that level. This week started around that level. And that's obviously isn't this number. It's 4 zeros and 102. Okay? And then here, the next one, let's look to the left side and find out where are the most condensed heads and tails are. So that's pretty much where it is. Okay, you see this wick here, and then a bunch of wicks and head and tail, heads, tails. That's where this should go. and that's even lower. 5 zeros and 8, 9. Yeah, that should be the level. Just to quickly check. Yeah, 5 zeros, 8, 9. Alright, so we have our two lower level key references. So that's where the current candlestick, tested the blue key level of 89. Let's simplify that. And then eventually we'll get to one more before we get to the bottom of the white box. The white box is a long-term playground zone where SHIB has been trading since 2021. So I just want to adjust a little. I notice it's a bit tilted. Just want to make sure it's flat. Okay, so this long-term playground zone tells us about 70-80% of the time within this 5-year period, that's where SHIB has been trading. And when the price really gets through this blue key level, there's one more before it gets to the bottom of the long-term playground zone. Let's pull that down as well. While we are drawing this, let's lock the lines above. Make sure, yep, everything is intact. And this, just to check on the left-hand side, we see these bunch of candlestick head, bottoms, tails, etc. So that's 0.078. Many zeros. Okay, so that's one more level before the bottom of the long-term playground zone at 682 with 5 zeros. Okay, so that's how far or how deep the spring can get to if things get really bad. Let me extend this to 250. Maybe too much. 235 would be fine. Yeah, I want to be able to show you when I am covering the chart so they don't get too far away. And if I zoom in, then you lose the numbers. Not that it's easy for SHIB because that's just too many zeros. Okay, so I'll skip the other ones. Before we get to the daily chart to see whether there are any potential breakout timing, just to quickly check this Bollinger Band and counter squeeze. The previous squeeze period that started back in June, okay, sometimes in early June, we have gone through like a 4-month squeeze period, and now it seems to finally start to swing. Okay, we are potentially getting out of this squeeze. So whatever or whenever squeeze happens, what comes after is bigger price swings. Sometimes it swings to the downside first, and sometimes it swings to the upside. And now this time, it seems, to start with, it's swinging to the downside to start off the swing. So hopefully, when time continues, we'll see some upside movement after the downward move finishes. So when we get to the daily, similar thing happened. So over the past 5 days, there was a squeeze period, and eventually today we started to see some actions. Hi Bonzi. Accumulation timeline on Wyckoff. So no, that's not. Accumulation timeline is always 5 years. No, that's not the case. So we have finished the squeeze, Bollinger Band and counter squeeze. So let's go back to the drawing since there's a question. That's not the accumulation period. The 5-year period I mentioned is the long-term playground zone, this white box. So I don't have the text here. Let me borrow this and put it into SHIB. this box is just this area. It's not an accumulation period. An accumulation cycle for Wyckoff is all these orange tags. This I haven't tagged, but this during the 2002 all the way to beginning of 2024 was another accumulation. So that's slightly over, or roughly about 2 years. Okay, so the 5-year I mentioned from 2021 to where we are now is only the long-term playgrounds from this white box. It does not mean it's some part of the Wyckoff, either distribution or accumulation cycle. Okay, so two galaxies. I don't usually I don't do this binary definition. Yesterday, another member in the community asked the same question you have. One, different coins are going through different periods. So when we say bear market, it seems like we are looking at them totally the same. So it's not what it is now. So if you look at my analysis for all these coins, they are at different stages in terms of Wyckoff. Some are at a late stage of distribution. Some has just started accumulation. So if you think accumulation is the bear market or is the bear for that particular crypto, that's fine. But there are multiple stages, right? If we go back to the chart, we see there is horizontal period, the accumulation period, and then the up leg towards the peak of the distribution, and eventually it comes down or a bit sideways before it comes down to the next accumulation. So if we use the binary bear or bull, then how do you map to those 4 stages, right? We have the flat period here, up period, flat period, and then a down period. So I don't usually call bull or bear, because an up leg is an up leg. People like to call that a bull market, but do we still call a decline from the distribution, like mid-late stage of distribution, still a bull market? To me, it's not. It's coming down. So how do I call that a bull, right? So then what does it mean if we call, like in this case for SHIB, the bull market for SHIB lasted only for 2 weeks during March 2024? That's the very funny or interesting way when we try to put the context of bull market, bear market, when we look at this from a per coin perspective, because to me it doesn't happen that way. The market comes down, yeah, it seems like it is, looking at what's happening today, a piece of Red Sea, right? But then if we look at SHIB in this case, it has come down way before. It came down in the beginning of this year. So you can actually say it has entered that, DXY rising heavily, yeah? A lot of factors are affecting all these assets, may it be crypto or gold or anything else. And it's expected because a lot of things are going on around the world. If you look at all those like videos from other influencers or like YouTubers or the news, basically, interest rates is changing, gold price is reacting, and then there all the how do I term this? Is, let's say, use a fight between the big countries, may it be on like actual physical war or like financial war or even like AI competition, all that. All these are, leading to what we are seeing now. All those uncertainty, the market has gone up a lot over the past 2-3 years, and what we are seeing now, what all the reactions we're seeing now may just be the start of what should have happened, but waited too long to happen. So expect more waves to come. So let's go back to the chart. We were at the daily, and because we haven't come to SHIB for a while, so there are some tags we have to fill in. Back then we were still in mid-September. Yeah, fundamental sentiments as well. Buying climax was back in mid-September, and then we see the continuous decline, and eventually we have the dip, assuming that's the selling climax. Okay, maybe that's not. Alright, that can be just another LPSY, because that outlier day was crazy. Okay, it may be, what we're going through now is only the beginning of the selling climax. That entire period was only a preliminary support stage. Okay, or maybe we were just right there. That was only another LPSY. Okay, so this accumulation in the daily time frame may have just started. I shared just now in Chainlink session or peak. So one of the earlier two sessions that I've just done, that if this is really an accumulation cycle around this purple key level of 102, then it's not entirely impossible, because that's where it happened back in December 2022, and there was a period around February 2024. Both accumulation happened between this blue key level and the purple key level. So I'm not surprised if this is actually, now I have to use a different color because it's a different scenario. Assuming that was the selling climax back on October 10th, 11. Okay, and that was an automatic rally instead of an LPSY. I think it's more the red scenario rather than the yellow, but let's put it together to show you another possible scenario. And what it comes down to show us was a second test in like mid-October. And eventually there were a few more tests. Okay? And if that's the case, what the price is doing now is to seek a low point that may become the spring of the Wyckoff accumulation cycle. Alright, so that's somewhat similar to what happened in beginning of 2024. You see over there. That's not the lowest point, however, so be careful given the macro environment, all those uncertainties and fights going on. Whether this is the selling climax or a spring, just to be cautious that both can go as low as the bottom edge of the white box. That's 68 with 5 zeros. Okay, that's why we have all this. I usually keep all these key levels and also this long-term playground zone over there to remember myself not to just look at what happened in the recent time. Those are not too far back, honestly, and the money printing has started way before those years. So if there are arguments saying, there are more money printed and that's why the price should be higher or the bottom can't be as low as those years, think twice, because if we look at just October 10th, you see that can actually happen. Alright, that day was actually a very good day that proves those arguments aren't valid. I want Algorand to rise. Yeah, I believe if you are a supporter of any project, you want them to come back. However, the current stage for altcoins are just that they are many of them has gone back to or have been in the accumulation since the beginning of 2025. So after the peak of 24, a lot of altcoins have been trading within the accumulation zone. So just one more thing to see whether there are any potential breakout timing given the current situation. This is a widening jaw, so it's not getting anywhere that we can see a convergence. So today is dropping pretty fiercely, if that's a downtrend, because here we were at a horizontal trading range, and today kind of broke that range that started, for 3 weeks, that has been, doing this. And well, if it closes within, that's still fine, maybe a little bit relieving that the sideways trend would continue. Not that it's absolutely the case, because things can change pretty quickly. If this is really becoming from a horizontal trading channel to a downward channel, what would it look like? Assuming that we are actually, turning from horizontal sideways to a downtrend. We don't have many reference points for now. I'm looking at the tip of the wicks and the heads or tails. So if this is really the case, for the next few days, if the price continues to trade this direction, okay, not saying it's going to break below the blue yet. Here you see a triangle. Alright, that date is somewhere around November 13th. So sometimes between now and then, if the price continues to trade within this triangle, any point in this 10 days, the market would tell us, or the big guys will tell us, are they allowing the price to drop lower than the blue and reaching or testing the light blue that's around 78 that we talk about, or is it going to break outside of this box and then continue to trade sideways between this blue 89 to 102. Alright, so the next couple of days is key because it's going to determine the new short-term trend. If it falls below the blue, then like I said, the spring or the selling climax may get to even lower level if the big guys are allowing that to happen. Okay, so just one time point in the next 10 days. If a breakout happen, that's good news. At least the sideways movement may continue for a bit longer. If it doesn't, if that continues, then let's see where the actual low of this accumulation would be. Alright, so pretty long story since we haven't covered SHIB for a while. Thanks for joining me. See you in the next session. Thank you, Bonzi. Welcome to the community. Ciao.